Hello crafty friends, it's Alicia of the Call Me Crafty YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm going to be making another set of cards using the December 2019 SheetLoad of Cards. I am going to make a couple tweaks to it, so I hope you'll stick around and see what I create. Thank you so much for stopping by today. If this is your first time to my channel, I hope by the end of this video that you'll be inspired to click on that subscribe button below and maybe even tap on that bell for notifications. If you're already a subscriber and regular viewer, welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here. Over the weekend, I shared a look at the brand new SheetLoad of Cards. If you've never heard of SheetLoad of Cards, let me tell you a little bit about it. Each month, I put out a free printable for my subscribers, and in that, I give you a sketch and supply list and cutting guides to help you make the most of your papers using the sketch that I provide for the month. For instance, this month, you will be creating 12 cards if you follow the instructions here. This is a great way to build your on-hand card stash, and it also makes great gifts if you give these out as sets to friends or family. The first set of cards that I made using this month's SheetLoad of Cards was a set of 12 clear Christmas cards. I'm going to pop a picture up on the screen now so you can take a look at those. If you would like to see how I made those, I do have that video linked in the description box below. If after watching this video you would like to make a SheetLoad of cards for yourself, I do have the video linked below where I tell you how that if you're a subscriber to my channel, you can download the file for free. Like I mentioned before, in today's cards, I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. The first change that I'm going to make is what my sentiment looks like. Now this is always just a starting point. The stamp set that I got out to use today, because I just wanted to kind of make all occasion or thinking about you cards, this isn't really going to fit on that small fishtail banner. So what I got out is a circle die from Spellbinders and then a scallop circle die that will match with it. I chose one that all of the sentiments would fit on, and then I will be using an extra piece of paper to do the scallop circle, but you'll see later what that's all going to look like. The other small change that I'm going to make has to do with this piece of pattern paper here. This paper does have an orientation that you could have the pencils and pens horizontal or vertical. What I'm going to be doing is adjusting how I cut this piece only, so that for my piece A's, the pencils will run vertical or top to bottom. For the tags, the pencils will run the same way, but when it comes to the little fishtail down here, which is piece C in the background, I want my pencils and pens to run left to right. So when I get to that part, I will make sure to point it out. I have already told you a little about the supplies that I'm going to be using, but before we get into the process, I want to give you a few more details. When I do start the process, I will go to a voiceover. If I leave you with any questions, as always, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. So off camera, I went ahead and pre-cut, scored, and folded all 12 of my card bases. And to add a little more texture to the front of these, I will be using my Cuttlebug Dots embossing folder. This size is one that will fit the entire front of the card. For my stamps, I will be using this set from There She Goes Clear Stamps. I believe it's called Sentimental. And what I love about this stamp set, and I've had this for quite a while, I don't see a date on it, I love that they have the printed kind of font with the handwriting. Now, this company is no longer in business or selling these, but I know that other stamp companies make stamps like this, or you might have something in your stash that will work. Again, you make the SheetLoad work for you. Speaking of stamping, I will be using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I always think this gives you a nice, crisp, clean, black image. Like I mentioned before, I will be using some Spellbinders dies. These are from a set of Nestabilities. For my papers today, I am using papers from the She's Magic line, which is from Dear Lizzy of American Crafts. I chose these 3 for my 3 pieces from the SheetLoad of Cards, and then I will be using this 4th one when I cut those scallop circles to go behind my sentiment. Let's get crafty! To get started on this card set, just like with the first one I did for the month, I will be cutting the 4-piece A's out of the top left of this piece of pattern paper. The first thing I do is cut kind of a block that is 6.5 inches wide by 9 inches tall, and then I cut those down to the final size for each piece. The next cut might look familiar as well. I'm going to cut a strip out of the pattern paper that is 3.5 inches wide, and then I will cut it down to the final size for those 4 tags. And this is where things start to look a little different. Instead of cutting them horizontally from the paper below the tags, I will be making cuts that keep those pens vertical. So I need 4 pieces that are 3.5 inches wide, or tall in this case, by 1 inch wide. I did some things off camera, including cutting the tag notches on the top of each piece and punching the hole. I used the We Are Memory Keepers tag punch board to do this, and then I also hand cut the fishtail ends in each of the bigger banner pieces. I also took the time to get out my die cutter, and I cut the 12 scallop circles from that 4th piece of pattern paper. The next step was to kind of get what I call card kits ready for each card. I do slow this down in that original process video, which by the way is linked below, but I just wanted to show you quickly here how I put together a few of those. Because I do want to make sure my ink is dry before I die cut it, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp my sentiments. You'll see here that I went ahead and got out the circle die, and what I did, I kind of used that so I could make sure that I left enough space between each of my stamped sentiments. I stamp my sentiment in the middle of the circle, and then I move it, ensuring that I leave enough room for each of those to be die cut. You'll notice instead of taking the time to clean my stamps now, I just kind of stamped off as much of the ink as I could on a scrap of paper, and then later off camera I will clean those stamps. While the ink was drying, I went ahead and embossed the front of each of my cards. I just put the card halfway into the embossing folder, and if you have any of these, you'll always see that there's kind of a line at the bottom where the pattern stops, and I just tried to line that up as best as I could with the center fold on my card. Once all of the cards were ready and the ink was dry on the sentiments, I went ahead and die cut each of the sentiments with my circle die. You'll notice here that I'm using some Scotch Blue removable tape. I love to use this for my die placement. It is a very low tack, but it holds that die in place as long as I need it. And the great thing is, I can reuse this little piece over and over. Even after I cut these 12 sentiments, it's still tacky enough that I saved it and I'll use it on another project. Once all of that die cutting was done, I went ahead and put my sentiments onto the scallop circle. You'll see there I just kind of put an X of adhesive on the back of the white cardstock and then centered that on that pattern paper piece. Next, I decided that since I did punch the holes in each of the tags, I should go ahead and put something in there. So I cut 12 pieces of this white metallic embroidery floss to about 6 inches long. Once those were all cut, I folded the embroidery floss in half and then fed the pointed or the folded end through the hole in the tag. I then pulled the end really tight and cut off so I had about an inch of the thread sticking out on the top. Now that everything is die cut and my tags have the floss in them, it is time to start putting the cards together. The first part I'm going to do is adhere piece A just flat down onto each of the card bases. Now I will be using my big blue roll of foam tape to place piece C onto the card front. I used 2 strips of the foam tape on the back of each piece C, and then I placed that onto the card front, making sure that the right side of piece C was aligned with the right side of the card, not of the pattern paper piece. Once those were all in place, I used that same foam tape to put my tag onto the card front. You'll notice here that I cut a very small piece to put over the floss on the back of the tag. That way that floss will stay in place where I need it, and before I put the foam on there, I did pull that loop tight just so it will stick in place. If you're interested in this blue foam tape, I do have a link to it on Amazon in my description box below. Now it is time to get those sentiments put onto the cards. I used my ATG to put some adhesive on the back of each circle, and then I centered those on the tag portion of the card. To help bring out the shine in the thread, I decided to use some sequins on the front of each card. I pulled out some sequins that are clear, but they also have a little holographic look to them. I placed 3 small glue dots where I wanted to place the sequins on the card front, and then I used my quick pick tool to pick up each sequin and place it right on top. And here's a look at the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed getting to see how I created this sheet load of cards. If you did, as always, I appreciate a thumbs up. Until my next video, I hope you're having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope that you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above, and if you're interested in any of the products or tools that I use in the video, I do have some links in the description box.